Hello and welcome to our flip video lesson, Qin Huangdi Unites China, lesson 6.04. So our 6.04 details are Human Odyssey reading pages 168 to 173, our student guide workbook pages 177 to 179, our OMS assessment 6.04, and then about the topic, learn about Qin Huangdi and centralized government in China. So our lesson objectives for this lesson are to describe at least 2 steps Qin took to centralize government or standardize procedures in China, describe the purpose of the Tomb of the Underground Warriors, explain why the Great Wall of China was built, identify Qin Huangdi, and indicate on a map the extent of the Qin Empire and the Great Wall. Lesson Introduction. Qin Huangdi unites China. Qin Huangdi, known as the Tiger of China, was the first emperor of a united China. He wanted direct control of a centralized government. He got it, but he wasn't a benevolent ruler, and he wasn't always wise. Although his reign was short, he left an important legacy and several lasting monuments. 2 of the most famous monuments are the Great Wall and his tomb filled with clay warriors. The Tomb of the Underground Warriors was built as Qin's tomb, and the Great Wall was built to protect the lands from invaders. So now I'd like you to turn to your student guide, open it up to page 178. There's not much space to write, so you can get a piece of paper, or you can just fit the wording in on that page if you can. So this goes over a little bit of geography. Question number 1 says, what was the natural boundary of the Qin Empire to the south and to the north? That's misspelled. That U should not be in there. Sometimes it was spelled with a U, and that's how our student guide had it, and I copied it there. But just so you know, those are both the same words. So to the south, the natural boundary, natural is something not man-made. So the natural boundary is the China Sea, and then to the north is the Gobi Desert. And you can see that on here, the South China Sea, and then the Gobi Desert up here on the top, okay? Approximately how many miles did the Qin Empire extend from the north to the south, from the east to the west? So to the north and the south, it was about 1,400 miles, so up and down. And then from the east and the west, it was about 1,200 miles. Okay. What is the latitude and longitude of the westernmost point of the Great Wall, of the easternmost point? So the westernmost point is approximately 40 degrees north and 94 degrees east. Remember, we always do our latitude line first. That's the line going across. So that's 40 degrees north. And then our longitude line is the line going up and down. Okay. And then the easternmost point would be 40 degrees north and 125 degrees east. And then question number 4, how does the location of the Great Wall reflect the function of the wall? So the Great Wall of China is right up here along the top, and it was built to stop invaders from the north. So it was built on the northern border. It was built to stop invaders from here invading down into this area of China. And then question number 5, now look at the map of modern China in the atlas in your book, and I believe it was 625. You can look at 625, there's a picture, and then on 626 and 627 as well. And then what has been the most significant change in China's boundaries since the Qin dynasty? China's western border has moved considerably farther west from about 100 degrees east to about 75 degrees east. Okay, so it's moved out, it's expanded. Okay, let's take a quick video tour.
In 1974, a group of farmers in remote China was digging for a well when they made one of the greatest archaeological discoveries of the 20th century. Buried beneath the earth, thousands of life-size statues of Chinese soldiers, an entire army of terracotta warriors. Since its discovery, the Terracotta Army has attracted tourists by the thousands, including President Ronald Reagan. The statues date to 209 BC. Their purpose? To guard the tomb of Huangdi, China's first emperor. In the year 246 BC, China was made up of 7 warring states. One of the states, Qin, was ruled by a 13-year-old king named Zhao. The reason why China suffers bitterly from endless wars, he said, is because of the existence of feudal lords and kings. To increase the power of the Qin kingdom, King Zheng and his army began conquering neighboring states. This led to 20 years of warfare as he brought more and more kingdoms under his rule, ultimately unifying China. By 221 BC, after conquering all of the states, he named himself Huangdi, or First Emperor. To help rule his empire, Huangdi embraced legalism, a philosophy that said to achieve order, a ruler must pass strict laws and enforce harsh punishments. This Huangdi did ruthlessly, torturing and killing his critics, enslaving criminals, and burning books on topics other than medicine and agriculture to end dissent. To maintain power, he forced nobles to move into his capital at Xianyang. To help further unify China, he instituted standardized weights and measures, introduced a universal currency, and created uniformity in Chinese writing. Workers repaired roads and built canals, improving China's transportation system. However, the most celebrated achievement of Huangdi's rule is the construction of the Great Wall of China. Originally built in sections in various states to defend against raiders, Huangdi ordered the walls to be joined. The effort demanded hundreds of thousands of laborers working year-round for several years. Many lost their lives in the process. At its greatest extent during the Ming Dynasty, the Great Wall spanned more than 5,000 miles across northern China. Though his accomplishments were many, Huangdi would not live to enjoy them. He died at the age of 50 from mercury poisoning. Ironically, the poisoning was caused by pills that were meant to give him immortal life. But his memory lives on in his Great Wall, his terracotta warriors, and a unified China that today ranks among the world's greatest powers.
Okay, so now that you have watched the video, let's go ahead and see if we can fill in that chart on page 179. So Qin's problems. One of the first problems, loyalty to states rather than empire. So the solution to that was that nobles were forced to move to the capital and they were appointed governors of states. And then the results were a unified and centralized government, which made it easier to rule. Another problem was the empire was very large. So the solution was to build a network of roads and canals and standardize the width for carts. And what was the result? Again, a unified empire. One of the problems, money from one region was useless in other regions. And so a standardized currency was developed. And again, that unified the empire. A problem, reports from one part of the empire couldn't be read in other parts. And so a standardized system of writing was developed. Again, do you notice a pattern here? This standardized system to kind of bring everything together. And so the results of that were communication among regions improved. Villages weighed rice differently. And so again, this word standardized, a standardized system of weights and measures was developed. And again, that unified the empire. And then a problem, invaders attacked from the north. And so the solution was to build the Great Wall, the longest man-made structure in the world. And the result of that was that it made China safer. But unfortunately, many workers died while completing the Great Wall of China. So if we take a look at the thinking cap question on page 179, Qin's problems. How might the standardization of money, writing, weights, and measures help unify diverse parts of a large country? So when we think about that, if there's not a unification, if there's not a standardization of writing, of weights, of money, it was very difficult to be able to interact with other parts of a larger a larger country. Okay, so by unifying, by standardizing all of these things, by making everything the same, interactions were much easier. So here we come to our reading. Please make sure that you do complete your reading, pages 168 to page 173 in your Human Odyssey book to help with your understanding of this lesson. And important vocabulary words to understand. Standardized means to bring or make of an established standard size, weight, quality, strength, or the like, make it the same. Imperial means of or relating to an empire or emperor. Campaigns are a series of military battles, attacks, etc., designed to produce a particular result in war. And remember, this happened a lot as different territories were being we're being taken over, we're being unified, not just in China's dynasty, but in many of the civilizations that we'll study throughout the year. And then unified means to cause people or things to be joined or brought together. Here we come to our quote section. The government is best which governs the least, because its people discipline themselves. And that was said by Thomas Jefferson. Thank you so much for joining me today. Remember, motivation is what gets you started. Habit is what keeps you going. Have a great day.